healing. The elegance of life is what we're revealing now in the joyful now. Oh, knowing is the language of the divine.
Good evening. Welcome to all of you who have joined us in person, welcome, on Facebook and on Zoom. For those of you who are here in person, please take a minute to ensure that your cell phone and all of your electronics are turned off so we can have an hour free of outside influences. We begin our evening service with a pre-service meditation. I invite you to get still, close your eyes as we play God's Love That I Am. I like to breathe in and breathe out. And if you want to say to yourself, God's the love that I am, to yourself, please enjoy. Judgment, just back to your breath, breathing in and breathing out. And so, as our meditation comes to a close, gently bring your awareness back into your surroundings, into your bodies, and as you are ready, open your eyes. Welcome to those of you who have joined us while our meditation was in progress. So glad you're here with us tonight, virtually, on Zoom, or on Facebook. Let's begin with our opening chant, God is the love that I am.
Actually, let's do God is in this place, but I like that one too.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I could think of that. Thank you. God is in this place.
Not a problem.
God is in this place. God is in this place. God is in this holy place. God is in this place.
Love.
Love is in this place. Love is in this place. Love is in this holy place. Love is in this place.
Joy.
Joy is in this place. Joy is in this place. Joy is in this holy place. Joy is in this place. God is in this place.
Now it is time for us to join together in prayer. As I recognize the one power, the one presence, the one principle, the one who I call God, the good of which there is no opposite, no equal, and there is nothing comparable. God is love, and I am an emanation of the divine. I know this for myself. I know this for every being everywhere, in this sanctuary and out of this sanctuary, on Facebook, on Zoom. We are all love. We are all emanations of God, and we have all the qualities of God. We are love. I speak my word for this service this lovely evening, absolutely knowing that it is divinely guided, and we are blessed. We are blessed by the musicians Gia and Sam. We are blessed by the staff and the volunteers and everybody who puts on this beautiful service. We are blessed by all of you in the audience and everybody on Zoom and Facebook. And I absolutely know that God is divinely representative by our beloved Reverend Sydney, that she embodies all of God's grace. And she embodies all of God's truth. And she does it with love and light. And I absolutely know that we hear exactly what we need to hear. We learn exactly what we need to learn tonight. And it is all done with, as I said, with love and with light. And with a grateful heart, I release my word into the law of mind. And so it is, and together we say, Amen. Please join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Everyone has a melody. Something you just have to sing, your soul song, your soul song. I love to hear your melody. It inspires me to sing my soul song, my soul song. And holy rhythm is a beautiful thing, our vibration resonating. And through the music we are healing. The elegance of life is what we're feeling now. I am the captain of my soul. God is the ruler of my heart. All day long, all night long, I hear a hymn of remembering. A name is spoken in every strand all day long. All along. Holy rhythm is a beautiful thing. Our vibration resonating. And through the music we are healing. The elegance of life is what we're revealing now. In the joyful night. Knowing is the language of the divine. We commune together with our hearts entwined. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And holy rhythm is a beautiful thing. Our vibration resonated. And through the music we are healing. The elegance of life is what we're feeling now. In the joyful night. In the graceful night. In this moment of
I think the word wow was invented for people like Gia. All righty, how are we doing? I hear it's a little warm out there, huh? When I was growing up in religious science, when I was probably 8 years old, 9 years old, one of the things that we used to do, and as a 9-year-old kid, I felt so stupid. The minister was a woman, and she was so powerful. And she would have everyone at the very beginning of the service hug themselves, which right away when you're 9, you just go, oh, God, I had to come to church with Mom. And we would say, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me. And we do it 3 times. Let's do that. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me. Do it again. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me. One more time. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me. And when you get, you can unclench now. When you get to the end of that, you actually, no matter how you've been, like, and you're 9 years old and you don't want to do it, you actually feel better, right? So what is the voice in your head saying most of the day? Is it saying wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me? Or is it saying mediocre, awful, and victimized me? It's really interesting to begin to identify that voice and what the general tendency is, because what we know in science of mind, it's not those random thoughts that are going to have that power to create and direct our lives, but it's the general tendency our thought is taking. And that's what we are seeking to do, is to become aware of that, to become aware of the pathway of our thinking. So what I've recognized is that there are ways in which we get in our own way, even though we want to have a bigger life. We want to have that wonderful, wonderful me experience, and yet there is that thread that weaves through it that is about the mediocre, victimized, right? And that's often the one that we pay attention. And I think that I know that's what causes us to get in our own way. We might believe that I'm a victim and everybody else is doing this to me. It's all happening there, and they're the ones who are spoiling this for me. But you know what? We get in our own way. So are there ways in which you might be thinking of right now that you get in your own way? Something that you might be doing or saying or believing that is causing you to not have that rich, robust, juicy life that you really thought you'd have, right? What happens is we often will stay in the familiar discomfort of something that perhaps is working just well enough, instead of moving into or seeking the path of the unknown, which could ultimately lead us to what we want. And that's an interesting thing to kind of explore within yourself. And another way of saying it, and I've said this before, is are we defined by fear, or are we divined by love? Because we get to choose. We get to choose, Our energy is always going to gravitate towards where our attention is. What you hear all the time is our energy goes where our attention flows, or the energy flows where the attention goes, or something like that. That which we are feeding and nourishing and paying attention to is what is going to start responding. Because, again, we talked about this on Sunday, the universe only has one answer, and what is it? Yes. It says yes. And so if we are attending to a thought of limitation, the universe goes, yes. I don't think it goes like that, but it just responds in that way. I know that we have the choice to move beyond the law of averages, a life of mediocre victimization, right, into the law of infinite possibility. We get to choose law of averages or law of infinite possibility. So let's talk a little bit about this idea, the law of averages. It's informed by what we call the race mind or the collective mind. So it's the subjective experience of everyone throughout history, including you and me, by the way, and it includes both experiences of wholeness and joy, as well as the experiences of fear, of suffering, of struggle, and the ego's guidance and impressions, for better or for worse. In other words, the race mind is like a big cauldron of soup, and it contains both the really good stuff, like the prime cuts of meat and great lobster that's fresh off the boat, and a whole bunch of bad meat, old fish, and rotten tomatoes. Okay? It's all in there together. Paints quite a picture, right? So you and I participate in the soup. And our thoughts, both life-affirming and life-denying, go into that soup. So our intention in the science of mind is to be aware of what we are putting into that subjective stew. But more than that, we want to know what we are taking out from it. We want to know what we've dished up into our own lives and be conscious of that, because we can choose to not do that. We can move above that law of averages. We can fly above that. We can think above that. We can live above that when we are conscious and we determine what it is we choose to do with our thoughts, with our energy, with our creativity. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Okay. So here's some of the stuff that you might recognize as part of this consciousness of the law of averages. It says, go along to get along. It says, don't rock the boat. It says, it's how we've always done it. It says, you can't stem the tide, you can't fight City Hall, and you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But you know what? I just want each of us to know that we are not working with the tide. City Hall has nothing to do with our divine identities, and we are not dogs, old or new. Okay, so just get that. Besides, my dogs have always been pretty smart up until old age. I've been able to train them, probably better than some of the people I've known. Anyway, cancel. Okay. Feeling alive and filled with zeal, as Charles Fillmore would have said, gives you and me the deep awareness of being in the flow of life, which sounds so much better than being subject to the law of averages, right? That subjective soup. So one of the things that I am looking at, and I've been working with a couple of books on this. One of them I read every year, and I have been listening to it on Audible again this year, and it's called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And it's one of the finest books I've ever read about living your life from a high level of integrity. Whether you are a leader or not, it's about living from a place of complete responsibility for your thinking, for your life, and to be in integrity and congruency with spirit, with the guidance that you get. Now, it's written more in a business sense, but I'll tell you what, it starts off the very first chapter referencing, it calls it states of consciousness. You and I know it as the kingdoms of consciousness, and references Michael Bernard Beckwith. And so this is not a book of strictly business. It's about looking at the greater idea that we want to be guided by. So when we are in the flow of life, and the authors of this book, along with another book I'm working with called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, they talk about being in the zone of genius, right? I call that just being in the great flow of life. And when you are in that zone, you spend time doing what you love, what you're uniquely gifted to do. Time passes and you don't even know it's passed. I mean, you would do this even if you weren't getting paid to do it. You know, the activities feel like nothing to you. They just feel so natural and so easy. Often this is the stuff that we get appreciated for. Sometimes it's not, but it just feels so natural. It is that which lifts your spirit and just absolutely lifts everything and everyone around you too. So when you're in your zone of genius, you might be saying to yourself, can't everyone do that easily? Can't everyone do that? Because it feels so natural to you. You don't realize in that place that this is your zone of genius. The example they give is it's like telling a fish that it's a genius swimmer. It's hard to self-identify that you're in that zone. It's just you know how you feel. So right now, are you living in your zone of genius? Are you fully there? Or are you in perhaps a different zone? You know, when we're in that zone of genius, we're in a zone of vibrant aliveness and infinite possibility. It just feels good. It feels hopeful. There's joy. So yay, if you're there. Keep coming and be present with those of us who aren't always there all the time, because we need your consciousness. But if you're not, then who or what is in your way of doing that? Who or what? What is the part of the soup, that stew that you pulled out, dished up onto your plate, and decided you were going to work with? There's an interesting thing that happens as we are moving, and there are 4 different zones that Gay Hendricks talks about. There's the zone of incompetence, the zone of competence, the zone of excellence, and then the zone of genius. And all of them have value, and we go through all of them. That zone of genius is the one where we really, really want to be. But often, there's what Gay Hendricks calls the upper limit problem. We get so far, and then we stop. Something takes us out of the game. Something pulls us down. Something happens. When you're comfortable and successful, but not driven by passion and joy, you may find yourself in what they call the zone of excellence, or I'll call it the comfort zone. So you may not be fully charged by a sense of, wow, life is just amazing and I love doing this, but you're okay. You're competent at it, and you're getting paid, you're doing all of that. But the thing is, when we are only in that zone of comfort, we're not being fully energized by it. In fact, there's an energy leak that begins to happen, right? Does that make sense? Because you're not getting fed by it. You know, the law of life is about circulation. So if you're only putting your energy into this thing and it's not feeding you back, or life isn't responding by feeding you back because of it, then you're not in the flow. It's more like you're in a leaky boat, because there are energy leaks. So you're out of congruence with what could be, with what is. There's nothing wrong with it. There's really nothing wrong with it. But it's worth looking at our comfort zones, our zones of excellence, to see if perhaps we might be called to do more. You know, that idea of divine discontent comes to mind. Many of us find ourselves in that zone of comfort, and instead of divine discontent, we go to a place of divine disconnect, where we just choose to deny that it's not quite, you know, a round peg in a round hole, and we just go, well, it's good enough, right? It's good enough. Status quo living does not replenish the fuel cells. Anybody notice that? Anybody experience that? It tends to deplete them, and then you actually have to find your charge or your thrill somewhere else. And that's why often people resort to drug use or alcohol or extramarital affairs or distraction with devices. That's a good one right there, because it's so much easier than actually doing the deeper work. When the majority of your life feels like work, the passion often dies along with your creativity and your potential if you stay too long. So there's something about the discomfort of moving forward that actually is the blessing. That's what strengthens us. That's the thing that our inspiration comes from. That's where our zone is. That's where all the answers begin to flow. Once we have moved into that place of not quite comfortable, but open and willing and a little ticklish, like, whoa, what's going on here? And it is an energy of birth. It's an energy of creativity. It's an energy of emergence. So there's an idea around this, you know, emotion. Think about emotion. The word emotion. It's energy in motion. Our emotions are energy in motion. And yet, if we are blocked with the idea of delight, of joy, of possibility and passion, that motion has stopped. And what I've noticed with myself is it will often center itself, and that block will be felt physically. It might center itself in my throat. It'll be an expression of anger or resistance. It might center itself in my back. It'll be an experience of pain. I mean, it's a really fascinating thing to begin to look at the ways in which the universe, in which the law, the infinite law, will get our attention in order to inspire us to grow and to reach for more, right? To come, as the butterfly does, to push out of that shell so that we might fly. But until we push out of that shell and go through everything that it takes to build the muscle and get the blood flowing, we don't fly. We don't fly. We can get very comfortable in our comfort zones, but comfort isn't the same as aliveness. And as I said, there are these upper limits that we sometimes have, we participate in. And it's an upper limit problem, actually, is what Gay Hendricks calls it. And upper limits are the perceived and operational beliefs that we have that tell us we can't go any further for some reason, or we don't deserve to live a life of empowerment and deep joy. Our upper limits, by the way, are held in place by fears and repetitive thoughts, right? Those upper limits. And in a minute, I'm going to give you an idea of what that is. Typically, fear guards the line between the zone of comfort and the ultimate zone of full aliveness. Fear is what guards that line and protects the ego. Just protects the ego, you know, the fear of failure if I go any further, right? So your upper limit narrative might sound something like this. Who are you to live in your zone of genius or to be fully alive and vibrant? You're not that special. Who can do that? Work is work. Unless you're independently wealthy, you just can't stop doing the things you don't want to do. Here's one. What about your financial responsibilities? That's irresponsible. What if living in your genius means you could choose to abandon others or they would abandon you? What if you think it's your this is a good one. What if you just think it's your zone of genius, but it's really just a dream and you fail miserably? Yeah? And here's the one that ultimately sucks all of the life energy out of us. It's better to play it safe and stay with what you know. It's just too risky to try. Yeah? Anybody grow up with that? I think a lot of us grow up with that. You know, don't take those big chances, especially if you are like having to raise a family, you know, to provide for them. Oh, that's too risky. You got it, you know, you can't do that. Don't be gambling with your family. So the false beliefs that keep us from moving into that zone of genius, like I said, are what we call the upper limits problem. And the big idea is that each of us has a gauge, like a thermostat, that measures how good things are, with a limit just shy of too good to be true for me, right? We have like this thing that kicks in. We've got this thing that kicks in. And we have a limit for different areas of our lives, how much money we're allowed to make, how much love or closeness we can feel, how much joy we can experience, or how much fun we're allowed to have, right? We have this narrative going on that's telling us we can or we cannot for whatever reason, right? And so everyone's upper limits vary. They are all different. Think about it. This is why commissioned salespeople seem to top out sometimes at such different numbers. You know, they've reached their upper limit. You know, and that's when those buried beliefs that we talk about all the time here in Science of Mind, because our quest is to reveal those things which might be sabotaging us, which might be holding us back, which we might be participating in, or might be thinking it's okay to hold that belief, when in fact, there's something greater within you that is trying to emerge, to come forth, to create, to be more. And it's doing battle with those upper limits, right? So what does seem consistent, though, in the research is that when people bump into an upper limit, there's something that happens, and it'll draw them back down to that safe and comfortable level again. And here's what I want you to know. It's not the things that are the problem. It's not the things that happen. It's not the things that happen that bring us back to that status quo place. What actually brings us back are the decisions we make about what happened. The decisions we make about what happened and how they tie in with our worthiness. Well, I just wasn't good enough. That's why I failed. Or it fell through because I didn't do enough spiritual work. That's a good one. Yeah, anybody do that? You know, metaphysical self-abuse is really popular in New Thought communities. I want to encourage you to not participate in that one. You know, our decisions about the stuff that happens to us, and we make them consciously and unconsciously, those are the decisions that form our beliefs. And those are the beliefs that create our lives because they're creating our perceptions and our experience. Those decisions are sourced by those old narratives of limitation and familiar, comfortable, but we don't like it, misery, right? So the narrative that wins is the one that we have been believing and replaying throughout most of our lives. We've been replaying that narrative throughout most of our lives. Now, there's a lot of good news around this, which is that we get to disrupt that narrative. Just the intention to become curious about it is one of the greatest disruptions we can experience. When we commit to knowing more, to becoming curious without being guilty, without feeling shame, without shaming ourselves, without blaming somebody else, but to become fully responsible for our lives, for what we're thinking, what's going on, and becoming curious about why this is expressing the way it is, or why this is happening over here, to understand what might have been part of the participation in that. Not the old idea that we used to hear a lot of in Old New Thought, what's in your consciousness? Like, some of you who have been around here for a while, you know that if you came up with a cold or a flu and somebody would go, what's in your consciousness, Amy? Amy McKenna, what have you been nourishing? And it would get even worse than that, like a car accident or break your leg skiing, or, what's in your consciousness, Natalie? And it very shaming and absolutely obnoxious, right? Just absolutely obnoxious. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm really clear that y'all didn't sit down with your coffee this morning and make a deal with yourself to hold those upper limits in place. Hey, self, if we start having too much fun today, let's make sure we get to have something go wrong, right? Let's have a fight with the boss. Maybe I can upset a client. Maybe I can piss off my spouse. I'll make an accounting error. That'll be the one. That'll be the one to keep things under control, right? Yet at the same time, there are all these phrases that we casually use in our society. It's too good to be true. We're waiting for the other shoe to drop. What goes up must come down. And here's one I had never heard before. Tallest poppy gets cut. So you stick out, you stand up, and you're tall, and you're shining brighter than anybody else. They're coming for you, right? You get what you pay for. There's another one. So here are the 4 beliefs that begin to trigger those upper limit possibilities, or rather problems. I'm going to give you Band-Aids for all of this later, I promise. Feeling fundamentally flawed, right? People believe that they can't expand into their full creative genius because something is inherently wrong with them. Like, it's okay that Brenda gets to live the life that she has and travels and has lots of people who love her, but not me. There's something here. God just didn't like me that much. There's something broken in me. We do that to ourselves. Disloyalty and abandonment is another one that will trigger it, especially those who have grown up with more humble circumstances, because you believe you cannot experience full success because it'll be disloyal to your roots. Like, well, I can't make more money than my dad. That would be wrong. He'd feel sad and ashamed if I was more successful than he was. Anybody have that one? It's more common than you think. More success equals a bigger burden. Those who hold this belief think they can't expand to their highest potential because they will have burdens to handle, more to do, people who want things from them. Life is going to demand more. Right? It's just going to be too hard. It's just going to be too hard. I better put a limit. I'll put a governor on my success because I don't want to have to be that aware. People do it. Outshining. Here's a good one. Especially for those who are talented or gifted, and I'm going to say that's everyone in this room. This belief is that if they expand to their full success, these people would outshine someone important to them and make that person feel bad or make them look bad, right? If I shine brighter than my husband, oh man, there will be hell to pay. He's going to be so ashamed. And yet we do that. Fear guards that line between the zone of excellence and the ultimate zone of genius. It guards the line between that zone of comfort and that zone of full, radiant, brilliant living. So experts say that the nervous system, now this is not new news for us, needs to be reprogrammed to allow for greater happiness, fulfillment, and relational connectedness. The good news is that the nervous system, who knew, is highly receptive to new programming. Okay. In fact, it's somewhat capable of reprogramming, if we did that on Sunday, where are you? It's somewhat capable of reprogramming itself if we provide support. And this is why the religious science serves us so well. It is so, so magnificent. You know, we know that we can live according to beliefs that serve us, that bless us, and uplift us. And something else, we don't reprogram our thinking. We create a new way of knowing ourselves. And in that, we create neural pathways that serve to bless us, to lift us up, to support us. I won't use the word program because it sounds like something that I wouldn't want to be a part of. However, I am absolutely down with this idea of creating a way of being and thinking that involves me knowing myself as divine and limitless, because my source is divine and limitless. And by the way, I'm made in the image and likeness of that. I'm not just adjacent to God. I am God in form and flesh. You are God in form and flesh. You're not just similar. You know, you don't just bear sort of a resemblance as, God, who used to say this? You're a chip off the old block. You're a chip off the old God block, right? So what we do is we have a thought that gets us out of that groove, that habit, into a new pattern, a new path. It teaches us to perceive something different. And in that, we begin to see ourselves as different. We see ourselves from the truth of who we are. It's not enough to simply repeat a new idea or life-affirming belief. I mean, I know we do our affirmations, and a lot of us do them really well, but we need to practice living the principles that lift us up and keep us up. We need to practice and understand the principles that shift our lives in such a way that we don't just feel better, but that our lives absolutely dramatically transform into an experience of vital, robust expression, right? We want to practice these things. It's not enough to just look in the mirror and say, wonderful, wonderful me, although, God, that's a great beginning. It's such a good place to start. But we need to move into a place where we are actually practicing this teaching. You know, Ernest Holmes used to say that there are two things. It's about the teaching and the practicing. That's what it is. We teach and we practice. We teach and we practice. We teach and we practice. Because if we're not practicing, then our lives, well, the way I like to look at it is there are toe dippers who dip their toe. You know, you dip your toe in the pool, kind of get a gauge of what the temperature's like. And then what I call the soul swimmers who dive in and actually swim in this stuff. I made the decision early on to be more than a toe dipper. And I got to tell you that when you are a soul swimmer and you get to that end of the pool, oh my gosh, there are a lot of other people there. And that's part of the practice that sustains us and supports us. That's part of what we can do. You know, we talk about changing your thinking, change your life, but it's a very gross oversimplification, because what we need to do is align with the true nature of God and know ourselves as God knows us, and then spend time with people who also know themselves as God knows us, because, by the way, then they will know it for you when you forget. That's what a practitioner does. That's what a practitioner does. We know the truth about you. Ernest Holmes so famously used to say over and over, there is a power for good in the universe and you can use it. But he would also say, are you letting it use you? Are you letting it use you? And that's the place we get to be. That's the place where we get to open up, be receptive, and to allow and listen for that guidance. You know, we want to change our mind and keep it changed, right? We have to practice that. You know, diving fully and deeply into our own lives is a wonderful, scary, awakening, inspiring thing to do. We want to transform our lives and keep them transformed. So, you know, I want you all to know yourselves as I know you. I look out here and I see you as God. I see you as individualized versions of God. You are the way God shows up. You are the personifications of God. Nothing less than God. Like I said, you're not just resembling or adjacent. You are that. Because deep in your soul is that pattern for perfection. It is that spiritual blueprint. It is the truth of who you are. I want you to know that about yourself. It's my deepest prayer that you will all know that. You know, so if your narrative has become anything less than the story of your full magnificence, I invite you to begin a journey of discovery and spiritual awareness. Take the classes we offer. That's where it comes alive. You know, a lot of churches, you come and you hang out and it's great. You get inspired and you leave the parking lot and then you're done until the next week. No, we have teachings that we offer that will keep you going beyond the parking lot. Okay? And even beyond Whitset. We're going to keep you going beyond that. We want you to be inspired into the rest of your lives. Commit to a daily spiritual practice. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe if you have a busy work schedule, it's every time you go to the restroom, you just breathe and just say, I am one with God. God is all there is. I am one with God. God is all there is. Wonderful, wonderful me. Then you flush and you go back to work. Be with others who support your unfoldment. That's what we do here. And we have events that go on. We have parties. Oh my God, we have lots of stuff that goes on. And if you are finding yourself needing to be with others, we are all about service. We are all about needing volunteers. We have a lot of stuff going on here. Natalie spent the day with Dr. Mark cleaning out the kitchen. And last week, she and I spent the day, well, and this week we've done it a couple of times too, haven't we? Cleaning out the junior church to create space for our homeless ministry. So we have stuff going on here. If you just call the church and say, I'm free, I've got some hours, what do you need? We'll put you to work, and you will have so much fun. And that's where our growth and our healing comes. It's when we are in that place of service and sharing that we get to be what God created us to be. And finally, disrupt the narrative around you, of the world around you, which tells you you're not enough. Replace that narrative with the truth about your spiritual identity, that wonderful, wonderful me, that wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me truth. That's an easy one to remember, right? That's how you can disrupt that narrative. When you find yourself thinking, oh God, the world is just whatever you're going to spin off about, bring yourself back, hug yourself, and remember that you are wonderful. So I want to finish with one of my favorite pieces written by Ernest Holmes, and it's in the back of the textbook. And I remember the first time I read this, I melted. I keep the promise. I shall keep the promise I have made to myself. I shall never again tell myself that I am poor, sick, weak, nor unhappy. I shall not lie to myself anymore, but shall daily speak the truth to my inner soul, telling it that it is wonderful and marvelous, that it is one with the great cause of all life, truth, power, and action. I shall whisper these things into my soul until it breaks forth into songs of joy with the realization of its limitless possibilities. I shall assure my soul. And dear ones, I stand in my commitment that I shall always assure your soul of this truth, because I love you and I want you to remember always that your dreams are waiting for you to come true. And so it is. Thank you. Let's pray. Thank you. Okay. In the realm of infinite love, possibility, and creativity, we gather together in the knowing that our dreams are waiting for us to come true, and yet within we already are true. We are that truth, fully orbed, fully ready to come forth, to emerge, to be birthed into a place of great knowing, of great possibility, of great creativity, of joy, of delight, that we are here for that. I know that we are one in God and one with each other. And as I speak my word for this, for each one of us, I know that the truth now has room to come forth, that we give it the space to be born. We give it the space to emerge. And we move beyond any upper limit ideas so that we are just simply in that upper room of infinite possibility. That nothing and no one can stand in the way of who we are, including us. Because there is that within us which is greater than everything everyone and all that takes place in this world. We know that God is all there is. God is all there is. God is all there is. And we are part of that. I know that as we live and move and have our being in that infinite loving God, that presence, God lives and moves and has its being within us. And therefore we know that we are fully open to inspiration, fully open to wholeness and healing, fully available to joy, to delight, to abundance, to that which this world is so dynamically and powerfully always expressing. We choose to unite with that truth about who we are and about who God is, and what all life is. And as we know this for ourselves, we know it for this church. We know it for all churches everywhere, all synagogues, mosques, ashrams, temples, all places where people gather together. We know that the light that has drawn them together is the truth that there is one power and one presence. It is perfect. It is God, the good, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. And nothing and no one can stand in the way of that which is fully, fully expressing always. So we bless all of this life, and we bless those across the planet who are in need of knowing that they are loved and that they have the right to live a life of abundance, of freedom, of creativity, of wholeness. We declare it is so now. We know it is so, and we are grateful to know that we have that ability and the capacity to recognize that deeper spiritual truth. How wonderful to know that it is so. I release this word into the law of mind, declaring it is indeed so. And together we say, Amen.
I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With God's faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With God's faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God.
So this is the time when we invite you to share your tithes, your gifts, your love offerings. And we have a number of ways you can do that, which Gail will tell you about. But right now, I invite you to take that offering or the knowing of that offering, since we don't pass the baskets anymore, and hold that to your heart, will you? And then say with me, from the love of pure spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal and bless and prosper. It is evidence of my faith and belief. It does good work in the world and returns to me multiplied abundantly.
Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant.
The good word is coming.
She's got the good stuff.
Yes. And I'm going to share all the good stuff with you tonight. Okay. We make it easy for you to make donations to our church. To text to give number and QR code are on your program, or go to nhcrs.org/give. Prayer with a practitioner is available after the service in person or on Zoom. So if you're on Facebook, go on Zoom. You could pray with a practitioner on Zoom. If you're here, come up to front and you could pray with a practitioner up in front for a 1-minute miracle. Wednesday evening service with Reverend Steen. Meditation at 6:50 p.m., service at 7 p.m. next week. It'll be September 9th already, somewhere around there, September 7th. Join Reverend Sydney next week as she shares on the topic, Time to Heal. It's September tomorrow. Oh my God.
In fact, what I want to say about that real quick, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, please.
We're going to do a deep healing meditation and prayer next week. So bring your issues.
They're right here.
Okay, bring your issues. And we're going to look at all of that, and we're going to really go deep into a healing meditation and prayer. Bring your friends and their issues too.
Yes. And that'll be September, I think, 7th. So it says, join Reverend Sydney next week as she shares on the topic, Time to Heal. Time to Heal. The women's group will not meet this Sunday, but will return on October 2nd. Tween Teen Junior Church returns on Sunday, September 11th in the Ernest Holmes Room at 9:45 a.m. service only. This group, led by our amazing practitioners Jeff and Saba Doucette, is perfect for youths ages 11 and up. Bring your kids and have them bring their friends.
And their issues.
And their issues. This will be life-changing for all. For the good, for the good. Are you ready to shine?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Foundational class facilitated by Reverend Steen, 10 Tuesdays, 7 to 9:30 p.m., beginning September 20th, in person only. This is a life-changing for the better class. Changed my life for the better, unbelievably powerful. At NHCRS, we teach empowering spiritual principles and life-changing ideas. Foundations is the first in a series of CSL-sponsored core curriculum courses and is a positive transformational class. In it, you will deepen your spiritual life through study, meditation, lively discussions, and the affirmative prayer technique we call spiritual mind treatment. Cost is $240 if paid in full, or $260 if paid in 2 installments of $130. Sign up online or on the patio on Sundays. Become a practitioner. If you or someone you know is interested in becoming a practitioner, please sign up on the patio on a Sunday or contact Reverend Steen. Zoom virtual patio. We have before and after Sunday and Wednesday services on Zoom. We have a virtual patio, and you could ask to join and talk to your fellows. Zoom meditation. Every morning, Monday through Saturday, 7:55 a.m. through 8:15 a.m. That's on Zoom. Visit our website, nhcrs.org, to obtain Zoom links and more information about all our events, and to sign up for weekly e-blasts and monthly newsletters. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quickly, I want to thank, let's see, well, you're not, Luana's not holding vigil. Mary Catherine O'Hart is holding vigil. So we want to thank her. And our Facebook Live support, Dean Regan, and our Zoom support is Barbara Berg and Jim Reimers. And here in the sanctuary, we have Adam Keshen doing our lights and sound. Ho! Greeter and usher, that's where Luana is. There she is. Our sanctuary media team is Doreen Remo, Brenda Jordan. Is Brenda here? No, okay. Well, she's at home, holding space, holding consciousness. And Nikki is here. Thank you, thank you. Gia, your music is on iTunes. Gia Cimbotti, C-I-A-M, right? B-O-T-T-I. Oh, God, did you write that tune tonight that you did?
I did. I wrote that with a friend of mine.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Sam Krieger, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And you know, he's responsible for getting all of the talent in here. You know, it's not just like he shows up and, oh, who's here today? He's the one who does all of the work and gets them here and rehearses with them. He's good. I've done that job. It's hard. He's brilliant at it. Okay, Gail Palat, you did brilliant pulpit support. I am Reverend Sidney. Thank you for all of you who joined us, whether in person or streaming. I'm so glad you're here. Let's sing and go have coffee.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's all stand and sing Blessed Always, led by the beautiful Gia.
Blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen.
All right, I'll meet you out there.